What is going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 189 of Littleroot Lessons. I am down horrendously, and this week I'm joined by Jay in a Littleroot Lessons first.
Yeah, and of course, every single piece of technology we tried to get working tonight had some sort of an issue. I'm recording from my phone tonight because my computer decided to die, and that's just how things work around here. We're here, I'm excited. It's me and Angelo for the first time ever, and it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, this is the first episode ever without Carl or Carter. Carter had a wedding this weekend. Not his, close friend of his, though. And Carl is a dad now and has a newborn to take care of. I believe it's his turn to nap, which is why he didn't get any of our Mayday messages. But we're making this work, and we're just going to dive right into it. So, Jay, what event did we have this week?
We had Sacramento Regionals this weekend, and I gotta say, it was really surprising to see some of the Pokemon that you know did well. We had some very interesting teams make it into the top cut and win finals too. We had a Como win finals, which was awesome because I think that thing is so sick. And yeah, this regional was a lot of fun to watch over the weekend. I know a lot of our community members participated in it. So if you did, congrats on your runs. Better luck next time. You're gonna do great if you didn't do so well. Keep at it. But we're here to talk about the results today of the Sacramento Regionals.
Yeah, so first, before we go over results, we're just going to look over real briefly day one and day two usage. So right here, day one, um, talking about Pokemon that are initially horrendously down bad. Is that a Fluttermane in third place?
Indeed, it is. Still over 50% usage, mind
Just
you.
barely. But yeah, we Iron Hands, who has, in my opinion, solidified itself as the number one glue Pokemon in the format. With especially with the Assault Vest set, it can be your Fake Out with the Volt Switch. It can be your Pivot. It can just be the fat Pokemon that sits on the field and clicks Drain Punch and just annoys everything else. Um, then of course Lando, which is probably the number one physical threat. Again, a solid glue Pokemon in that second place for day one, just ahead of Flutter. Um, Anything you want to bring up for day one? Any like surprises?
Um, Not surprises so much in like the top 12. I mean, we've seen King Gambit kind of making that rise up. I know Luca did really well with it in the last regional
Mm-hmm.
last week in Peoria. That Black Glasses set is really on the rise. But I think something to note here is that the top six Pokemon all have over 30% usage. The top three having over 50% usage. It shows that there's definitely, a very centralized meta going on here. The meta kind of has established itself, amongst day one. A lot of these Pokemon are extremely popular. You're going to run into them all the time. And Iron Hands at nearly 60% is actually pretty not surprising, but that usage number is very very high in this format with so many extremely strong threats. It's really really crazy.
I think one of the things, two things I would like to know, and the first is, I feel like the reason why, especially the top six Pokemon, have such high usage, they're insanely splashable Pokemon, and they all do work together. Like you can take the
Yep.
top four, choose one of those two Ogre Ponds, and then grab almost any of the bottom six, and boom, you have a team, and you have a really really good team. But you will, as we
Hmm.
go through, especially the top cut teams, you might see a team that might only have one or two of these top six, but it's because of the fact that they're so splashable. You can honestly throw them like your last two spots in the team. You can take any of these six and, to be quite honest, any of these 12, and just throw them on there, and they're going to find a role. The second thing I'd like to note
Yeah.
is that outside of like the offensive output that Hands and Lando can give, Incineroar kind of does the entire job that both of those Pokemon do in itself. It's the Intimidator, Fake Outer, Pivoter, with solid defense, and it just
And it's a fire
and it's a
type
fire
since I
type.
and him like to Terra Fire
Yes. Um, so I will extremely lukewarm regulation F for whenever we get DLC to take. Incense going to easily be like 65-70% because it kind of just it's again it's role condensing, and that's why it's so good. Why use three Pokemon to do something that one Pokemon can do? Um,
Ask me how surprised I am
yeah.
if Incineroar is up in 70% usage.
So
I still think I think that Iron Hands specifically, like, well, both Iron Hands and Lando provide like that really fantastic offensive typing as well. Like their support is condensed with their offense
yes,
as well. Like I think Incineroar a lot of the times it's running mostly that one attacking move with Flare Blitz. Um, so I still, and also Iron Hands and Lando both also have positive matchups into the
hmm.
Incineroar. So I think I don't think that Incineroar is going to be, you know, overshadowing these Pokemon by a crazy margin. I wouldn't be surprised to see it in 70% usage because it's Incin, but I think that these Paradox Pokemon and Power Creep will make it maybe not as strong. Um, with like their really positive matchups into Incineroar.
So let's move on to day two usage, and there is a bit of a change. The main change is that we now see Dragonite creeping up into the day two top 12, along with the fact that Fluttermane was only down bad for one day. Back at the number one spot on any of these usages for the first time in Regulation E at 58.3%. And then you also have 50% for both Lando and Hands. I think other things to note is the drop in usage of Water Pond in day two, and also the drop of usage in Tornadus as well, compared to where they were at for day one. And Fire Over Pond, Rilla, and Waterfoo really jumping up. Again, this is a situation
Yep.
where the top six, you can take the top six Pokemon, throw them on a team, and that is a concise, really strong team with balance elements and offensive elements. And you have all of your tools right there. Intimidate, double
Hmm.
fake out, great offensive output from pretty much any of your Pokemon. Speed control, even with Fluttermane.
Yep. Chi Yu not here in the day two top 12. Fell from the top 12 in day one. Um, I wonder how much of that is RNG based. It feels like whenever you see Chi-Yu, it's missing moves. As a Chi-Yu enjoyer myself, I know how many times that Pokemon loves to miss. Um, so you see these Pokemon that are consistent. The only Pokemon that runs inaccurate moves in this top 12 is Heatran with Heat Wave and Tornadus with Bleak Windstorm. Everything else is running 100% accurate moves. So I wonder how much that plays into it, as well as Dragonite on the rise with that Chi-Pao D Knight core coming back in full strength.
I can relate to Chiyu missing moves. I lost a draft league in Dad's league. I lost a match last week because my Chiyu in turn one of game three decided that now wasn't the time to hit that overheat that I desperately needed to get that one hit KO. Just no, just didn't need it. And like there are some other Pokemon that do like Flutter could use Icy Wind, Rock Slide is a staple on Lando, but those aren't like moves that they're really using.
Yeah, they're not relying on those
Yeah.
moves. You're much more relying on your Moon Blasts and your Stomping Tantrums and your Terror Blasts, etc. I know in my set this week, I was playing against the Chi-Yu. Swede's Chi-Yu missed an overheat
Mm-hmm.
on turn
Yep.
one into my Farigiraf. My Farigiraf would have survived, but very, very barely. So it was, rough. But
Yeah.
yeah, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes sometimes, and that's what it feels like with Chi-Yu. You're always rolling a miss.
Yeah. What's that Joe Brown saying? If it's not 100%, it's 50%.
Or 0%. It
It's
feels
yeah, that's
like
what it does. Um, I think one of the main reasons why Dragonite as well is on the rise, and just Dragon types as a whole are doing well. Slight spoiler for when we get to the teams is because of you have this little friend here and her little twin right over here. Ogerpon is
Mm,
just such a dominant Pokemon in the metagame, and it's not just the Ogerpon. You see the rise in both Waterfoo and Rillaboom from day one to day two. You see how Heatran is just a constant Pokemon in this metagame, and being a Dragon type, and let alone a Dragon flying type, is actually a good thing to be in this meta. Fluttermane is still one of the top Pokemon, but it's not the oppressive force it was, as we discussed last week. It's not at its regulation B through D dominance, and
and it's day one usage
yeah,
too.
and day one usage yesterday, and to be able to be quadruple resist one of Ogerpon's two stabs, and then to also be able to resist Heatran stabs, Urshifu stabs, Rillaboom stabs. The actually all the Ogerpons besides Rock Ogerpon have both their stabs resisted in some way, shape, or form. Really, on this list, the only mon you're super threatened by, I mean, of course, Shampoo, Flutter with its Moon Blast, but you can always tear away from the Moon
Hmm.
Blast, and like Lando and to an extent Hands, depending on how your what your four moves are and the coverage, so to speak. And
Yep.
like of course, like if you're inner focus, Lando's a lot less scary. But yeah, it's a really great spot for dragon types, which means that my favorite type, the ice type, is also in a pretty good place, which we're about to see as we move over to our teams.
Yeah. The other thing just before we move over with Dragonite 2,
Hmm.
like being able to turn into a normal type and spam extreme speed is extremely good in this format. There's a lot of Tailwind teams, there's a lot of, fast Pokemon, the Ogre Ponds, specifically, and you're able to, get around those speed tiers and the lower speed tier of Dragonite with those extreme speeds, and get around that Flutter Mane weakness with that Terra Normal as well.
So, first and foremost, looking at the teams, congratulations to Michael Zhang for winning Sacramento Regionals, for securing his 2024 World's Invitation to Hawaii, and bagging 6 grand while he's at it. Weekend paid for itself. Um,
This team is
this is
amazing as
such a
well. It's
cool team.
so
This is
cool.
such a cool team. First, so my brother called me right before we started, like a little before we started recording, before we were supposed to start recording is more accurate. And I was telling him, he's like, "Oh yeah," I'm like, "Yeah, Tyranitar just won a regional," and like he doesn't play competitively. We grew up playing Pokemon though. He actually
Yeah.
played TCG with me competitively, and he was also a pretty decent TCG player in the junior, seniors, and I think like only 1 or 2 years in Masters. And we just realized like Tyranitar is not only older than every single junior and seniors player at this event, but a lot of the Masters players as well. This Pokemon is just as old as, if older than. Actually, we're going to do something awful. Jay, you're like 20, you're 25, right? You were 90?
Yeah, next month I turn 25. I think Tyranitar is a couple years younger than me.
Yeah, so T-Tar, I think it was,
I was born the same year that Yellow came out.
okay, yeah, so you're like, you're the prime example. You are just older than this Pokemon. And of course, we're talking about Dragonite. Dragonite's older than you, which is like just nutty how this Pokemon, literally across decades, is still winning events. And while
Yeah.
Tyranitar was definitely a major piece of the team, we got to talk about this Iron Defense
Mm.
Body Press Komao. The
It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. Como is so good. It's such a good Pokemon. I've been using it a lot recently. I drafted it recently. I love Iron Defense Body Press Pokemon. That is one of my favorite Pokemon archetypes. I love obviously I use the Orthworm in Hartford. I love the Hisuian Gudra. I love Slowbro has been one of my favorite draft Pokemon. I love seeing Iron Defense Body Press doing well. And with the drop in Flutter Mane, that is like very on the rise right now. I think it's an extremely, extremely strong archetype, and the typing that Dragon type resisting the Ogre Pawns and the Water type Urshifu, the Surging Strikes makes it so great if you can get one Iron Defense up.
This is just it's weird because I was like going through Twitter, like all the memes. It's like, no, this is the wrong Dragon type pseudo legendary with Iron Defense Body Press winning the event, like that's the thing. Like you would have thought that it would be the Shell Armor one, but no, it's this Komao, and this old Pokemon reintroduced to the metagame via DLC one, the Teal Mask, and second event in, it has a ring, and honestly, it's a very impressive one. Like looking at this overall top eight, like not to move away from Michael's team, but just look at who we beat to get here. Riley Fac-
Amazing
Riley
players
Factura is on a different
on a
level.
run.
He is like this
on a tear right now.
This is like when Joe earlier in the year when he went and what was it? He went second, first. Like I saw a
Yeah.
tweet today that if Riley won, he would have been the first player ever to qualify for Worlds like 3 times over. A lot of times in previous years, like people hit double the amount of points to get their invite because they're in the day two race. If so, Riley's currently at 460 points. So if he won today, he would have gotten his Pittsburgh win, which was an invite, the Sacramento win
Yep.
for an invite, and this win also would have put him at 500 points, which would have been his points invite.
And we're like 3 North American regionals in
Yeah,
at this point.
no, he is just on an absolute tear. Also, using a non-top 12 Pokemon in Amoonguss. Look at this guy using his favorites, bucking the trend. Shout out to Jody Azzarelli, who I just completely stole that bit from.
Among Us is very underrated right now. But before we get to Riley, I want to talk a little bit more about Michael's
Mm.
team because there's just so much going on here. There's so much cool. And like you brought up before that we thought that Hisui and Gudra would be the Pokemon, the Iron Defense Body Press Pokemon to take that archetype over the edge. But I'm not surprised to see Como. Um Specifically because Stab Body
It's so much
Press
better.
is so important, and you can also have that bulletproof ability, making you an incredible wall into Fluttermane, and that's the best. I think that's the biggest thing that Como has going for it over the other steel types is its or the other Iron Defense body pressers is its positive matchup after terrestrializing into Fluttermane. That you can take those Moonblasts with whatever type you want to go to, whether it be Steel, Poison, or Fire. I've seen all of them. You run Iron Head or Flash Cannon if
Mm-hmm.
you're running the special like Clangorous Soul set, and you can't be affected by Shadow Ball. You resist Moonblast to basically hitting you with Thunderbolt, and
And
that's not great
and
damage.
that's also if they're the spec set. If they are the very popular booster speed set, that third move is usually
Is Icy Wind or Dazzling Gleam,
yeah. Which again,
right?
you're going to resist both. The icy wind, the non-stab base 55 power move, especially after you Terra, if you go Terra Steel, is just you're laughing that off. Um,
Yep.
another thing I would like to note, not only with Michael's team, but with the other two teams, just as we were saying, as we feel like these Dragon types are on the rise, you have 3 straight teams featuring Ice types, and then a fourth team with an Ice type in um, eighth place with Aaron Brock. So overall, Ice is a very good offensive type right now. Even though there's a lot of
Yeah.
fire types in the top 12, Ice is still just such a great offensive typing. Um,
And it's a large variation of ice
yep.
types too. Like we're used to seeing a lot of the Chi and Pows up here. Iron Bundle winning the tournament. That's a Pokemon that we've seen, doing well in the Reggie events. Wasn't doing as well beforehand, so nice to see it kind of back on the rise. But we have the Alolan Ninetales and the Baxcalibur all doing well this
Yep.
weekend,
And
so that's
Shampoo.
that's a really cool thing. Yep, they have the Aurora Veil, the snow, I think I don't know if Rogov's was, but I know that some of the Bax calibers have been running Ice Body over the thermal energy or the thermal exchange recently
Mhm.
to take advantage of that snow from Ninetales as well. So some really innovative stuff. In this top eight here for sure.
Yeah, so Raghav was running the ice body, and overall, from what I've seen, it seems that the ice body, just in general, is a lot more of it's a more practical choice when you're running the Bax Caliber 99% of the time. You're running it next to the Alola Tails, and you're not your top Will-O-Wisp user right now is Weezing, which while we don't see it here, we will get to that. I believe that Weezing was a imperative part of this weekend. And the Weezing
Hmm.
just doesn't care about thermal exchange at all.
Yeah,
So to have the ice body to really honestly act as like a lefties, Raghav was able to have the bulk of the ice body in the recovery with the snow and the screens as well, and then have the offensive output with Swords Dance loaded dice. So
yeah.
their set was really really good. Going
It's
over.
it's it's interesting to me with the Ice Body stuff because like I think the thermal exchange is still really good. Ogre is a very strong. It's a popular Pokemon in the format, and like being able to get a boost from those Ivy Cudgels, I guess would be nice. But I know obviously you're not taking it super well at a as a neutral attack, but you can that Terra Water was a popular set earlier on. You could be like Terra Fire, it could be good in this format, and you have that dragon and fire type. Um, but that ice body is you're doubling your bulk with the your physical bulk with the snow, and you have scale shot for your
Mhm.
speed. And the ice body with those lefties allows you to recover, especially after losing your defense from using scale shot.
Yeah. Not to skip over Riley's team, because while it looks like a standard team just from what we've seen ever since Regulation C for like overall just the team comp, but still I think it's very interesting. It being that Chen Knight combination with again Discuss Dragonite really rising up in day two usage, and then it does have that slower, more balancy sort of mode with the Amoonguss being able to just bring the game to a halt, put some stuff to sleep, or on the other
Yep,
end, redirect to let your Fire Ogre Pawn or your Water Fu or whichever sweeper that you
your
have.
King Gambit gets set up
Yep.
too.
And there were a lot of really interesting King Gambit sets overall this week. I can't recall what Riley's was, but we saw the classic Black Glasses set. We did see some assault.
I think Riley's was black
Okay,
glasses. I'm pretty sure.
but
Might have been the AV
we
though.
also saw some AV sets, and I believe that there was one on stream. It was a three attack set with Brick Break, and I believe the item on the King Gambit was lefties. And the team that again going off my memory here, I believe that when it was on stream, it was up against a screens team, and you were able to see that very unique set put in a lot of work. King Gambit has a lot of like it doesn't just have Kowtow Cleaves and Sucker Punch and Iron Head. You get low kick, you
Hmm.
get Brick Break, you get the of course like Terra Blast on the AV sets. Like it's
Yeah, with like Terra Flying or Terra Fire, those are all good, Terra types
yeah,
still for it in this format.
even Assurance as another move over the Kowtow Cleave if you want that second Dark type attack. Like it's a
Yeah.
really cool Pokemon, and it's I know it's weird to say because it's one that we've had the entire time we've had this. We've been playing VGC in Generation 9, but I still think there's like more things that King Gambit can do that we haven't really dove into.
Yeah, and now it's in a spot where it's being able to take advantage of the meta.
Mhm.
And, I think the Black Glasses set is just like you get that Lando boost, that boost from the Intimidate, and you're able to take over games, and that's why it's, so popular. I think that we will see the variations if like the snow teams or Grimmsnarl starts becoming a lot more popular with potentially Brick Break Assault Vest. You still get that benefit from the Defiant boost. You just don't get as much of that immediate damage and from the Terra Dark Black Glasses, but you get a lot more defensive flexibility, which I think is important, especially on a team like Riley's, where you have two 4 times weeks to fighting.
Yeah.
Um, and then I believe the Dragonite was Terra Normal as
Hmm.
well. So after that terastallizes, you have another fighting weak Pokemon. Iron Hands is everywhere, so I think that the AV sets will definitely find their way back with like a nice defensive Terra type.
Yeah. Moving on, like I not to loop these two in, but Rogov's team and Aaron's team, I think it's two ways to look at a specific archetype, with which is this snow or Alola Tail screen archetype, and
Hmm.
our viewers already know this. I love ice. Like the buffs that Scarlet and Violet gave to this type are just amazing. Um,
Yeah.
Rogov's team, they definitely went in more of that very much snow type focus. They have like the snow abuser in Baxcalibur, who again as an ice and dragon type is in an amazing spot in this metagame. To be able to abuse Alola Ninetales' weather, to abuse the screens, and to also just have that dragon typing where you are neutral or resisting all of the Ogerpon attacks. It's a really great spot.
Hmm.
And on the other,
What Terra types are the Baxcaliburs running
I'm
recently?
I'm not sure. I missed what Rogov's was. The reason why we're using Victory Road and not Top Cut Explorer viewers is because we do not have updated Top Cut Explorer as of this time, or we do, and at this point it would just be a little messy to switch to it and figure that out.
Yeah,
Uh,
but just you
in
as a
general,
snow
as
person, you've been
so
playing with it.
I know I haven't actually been playing it too much. I've had friends in my building group who have played with it and have done well. I know water has been a big type, poison, even fire still. But
It's been sticking with like the defensive
yes,
Terra type rather than like an offensive ice one.
no,
Because
yeah,
you lose that defensive, your snow boost when you Terra away,
you.
which is something I was thinking of. Just you lose that defense boost after your scale shot, so I could see a world where maybe people start running, where people will run ice on it and just like get the icicle spear damage. But ice is such a bad defensive typing, so it doesn't surprise me.
I mean, you said it, not me. I think the thing that I know my limitations and my favorite types of limitations. I think the balance of losing the snow boost to your defense by terastallizing into like I think specifically water and poison would I'd say would be the two top types is that you actually get to
Yeah,
become a real defensive type that does things. So it works through in that sense. Um,
I was mainly interested because we actually have like a fast Aurora Veil snow setter
hmm,
now. When snow was in its premature days, I guess its preteen days, it was running with the
infinitesimal.
Obama snow, so it didn't have as much of the bulk as like the Ninetales has, or like the snow focus with the Baxcalibur. A lot of them were ran on like the Paladins instead. So
Yeah.
I was just wondering.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back, I think like previous formats to, I believe it was Regulation C. Yeah, so I believe it was Regulation. Yes, it was Regulation C. Nails' snow team. In his team report, he pretty much was like, I wanted to click Terra Ice Specs Blizzards. And so to do that, I kind of had to bring the Obama Snow.
I had to have
Yeah,
Obama Snow. That's the
it's,
only reason I had it. Ninetales has so many
yeah.
positives in this format, like Moonblast. Most of them are running freeze dry, right? Not blizzard.
It's a mix of both.
I would imagine
I
freeze
believe
dry.
that I think Blizzard is more common, but the freeze dry is nice. The other thing with Ninetales is that it does have a ton of really interesting tech moves on the support side. It gets
Yeah,
both. It gets Helping Hand, Hypnosis, Encore, Disable. Both like Disable is an amazing move in today's format because of the number of choice users that we have. The Specs Flutter, the Specs Chiyu, the Scarf Lando. Um,
the band
Yep,
Dragonite.
D Knight, Banded Hisuian Arcanine. Like
Yep.
there's a lot of those moves that like Pokemon that are abusing those choice items. So to have a fast disable as well, that's really cool. I know that I believe Raghav's ran just the protect screens to attacks, but that is an option. It also gets Howl, which Howl was something that I know.
On the Arcanines back in the
Yes,
day.
and I know that Howl Alola Tales was something that like my group. So Nishant and Chris
Oh,
both used that at. I think it was they both used it at the in the trainer school that grassroots tour. And
cooking.
didn't while they didn't finish it, the two of them did do relatively well in that tournament. But enough with talking about like the dedicated Snow going onto Aaron's
Yeah,
team. Um, Hypothetically, you could kind of just throw a Grim on this team; it would do the same thing. But the Alolan Ninetales, its ability to also control the weather, and to get the screens done all in one. Like if you don't have a
yeah. The one turn screen setup is the
mm,
big difference between the two.
and it,
Like you get both of them up, and you get to double bulk.
yeah,
You put your King Gambit under behind that, and that's what's knocking that out.
not a lot. Even not even the King Gambit. It will just not only just the King Gambit, the depending on
The Iron
the Iron Hands, the
Hands.
Heat Ran, and like the Water Ogre Pawn is surprisingly bulky, especially once it terrestrializes and gets the
Yeah,
Embody
with that
aspect.
special defense boost.
Yeah. Speaking of special side of things, the Ninetales on Aaron's team is the only special attacker.
Heatran.
Oh my god, he trans a special attacker. This is I started this off by saying I'm down horrendously, folks. That hasn't changed. I just watched my Eagles lose to the goddamn Jets. Shout out, Jam. I love you. You're amazing. Team New England all the way. I'm not well.
Yeah, I think that the snow archetype is really cool. The one thing that I've noticed in like playing against it is Ninetales' speed stat is its biggest positive, but also one of its biggest negatives. It underspeeds max speed Ogerpon by one
Mm-hmm.
point, and that's really bad. And it obviously underspeeds Pokemon like Fluttermane and Chi and Pow and Iron Bundle and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of times where you don't actually have the speed or the bulk to survive that hit, before getting your Aurora Veil up, and that's maybe its biggest drawback. But it's obviously having these very good performances despite it because it has so many positives, as well as also taking advantage of its own snow with that defense boost, boosting its physical bulk even
Yeah.
further.
I will say that I do agree with you. I like it's not like I want it to be hyper fast. I'm not going to get greedy, but the fact that it does underspeed Ogerpon, which is such. I mean, just over. If you want to count all the forms as one, Ogerpon is the most used Pokemon in the
Yeah,
format by a pretty
that's
large
that's the
margin.
biggest issue
Yeah,
for it.
and if it was the other way around where it outspent Ogerpon by 1 point, I think you would actually see this Pokemon be used even more.
Yeah,
Compared to last week, which didn't really like it had a Snow had an okay showing, but couldn't get it done in day two. Um, for it to have two spots in cut in two completely different manners of teams is something that's very very impressive. I'd say then next group of teams again we're able to group these together. Shane Gaffney and Andrew Ding, both using Tailwind offense teams. Again, it's like to an extent, it's hyper offense because I think any Tailwind team is in hyper offensive setting, but it just goes to show with this format that everything is not only super aggressive and can hit really hard because again on both of these teams all 6 Pokemon can do damage, even the Tornadus can do damage, but it's like there is the level of switchability and the level of defensive plays and defensive switches you're able to make with the teams.
Yeah, I also wanted to just shout out Andrew Ding. He went 14-0, went undefeated through the Swiss rounds, day one, day two. Met I believe it was Riley in top eight,
Mm-hmm.
which they had played today on stream earlier this morning. Well, afternoon for us,
Yes.
earlier this morning for them. I think they were the round one or round two game on stream today, and so they had to run back their matchup in which Riley ended up pulling out the win in when it mattered the
Yeah,
most.
it's
Must have seen something in that first matchup that maybe identified some type of win condition. Um, but very impressive run from Andrew. I know there was sometimes like I know one of his stream matches, I didn't think he was going to be able to pull out a game, and then he pulled it out anyway. It was really really crazy, and going 14-0 in Swiss is obviously absurd and deserves merit in its own right.
yeah, no, it's both. I mean, both of these players are just insanely good. And Andrew's another one who is. I feel like whenever he shows up, he always just puts out a show, and it's always just so impressive how he plays. Um, Looking at these two teams, I like you have the common cores of the Torn, Waterfoo, Rillaboom, and Fluttermane, and then the two wild like the fire types are different, and the wild card spot and like the Intimidator is different. Shane leaning towards the Flutterfish mode of offense to have with the Chi-Yu to have that duo as an instant lead as well. While Andrew's fire type went with Fire Ogerpon, which is again a phenomenal Pokemon and had a really great rise from day one to day two usage. And then for the Intimidators, Shane liked fire type so much that he went with another one with Hisuian Arcanine, one of my favorite Pokemon. While Andrew went with the tried and true Landorus Therian, which again, it's just you're not going to go wrong with this Pokemon.
I have to say, I was watching Shane's match. I believe it was the top four match that he had against.
Would have been
I
against
can't
I
remember, or
believe
maybe it was a little bit.
would have been against.
I
I'm
think it
trying to think.
was. Was it Shane? Yeah, Shane's the only Hisuian Arcanine in the top eight,
Yeah.
but their
No.
Hisuian
Michael had
Arcanine was. Oh yeah,
Michael.
yeah, it wasn't
Yeah.
Michael though, because Michael didn't lose because of it. There Shane's Hisuian Arcanine was slower in Tailwind than Choice Scarf Urshifu outside of Tailwind. And that seemed like a massive oversight, and it really costed him because he wasn't able to get a move off with his Arcanine before getting Surging Strikes and one shot. So, definitely uh, that was something that I had noticed, but Hisuian Arcanine as a Pokemon is extremely strong. And obviously, Shane had an incredible run with it, making it all the way to top four. Managed to get around that problem for most of the day or for most of his run. But definitely, was an issue. That Choice Scarf Urshifu is extremely popular right now. I believe
Yeah.
most of the Urshifu and the Top Cut are more than likely the Choice Scarf. That seems to be the most popular variant of it right
Mhm.
now.
Yeah. And I will say with the Arcanine, while it did fall off last week in Peoria, it did finish in top 12 in usage for day two. Didn't have the day two usage for it didn't have the day two usage for Sacramento. I do believe that next week in Lille, France, C-Suite, I remember this time, you're going to see an uptick as well. The Hisuian Arcanine is really good into those not Paradox, Ruin Mom plus Sweeper combo. It's a Pokemon that not only is able to punish Flutterfish, but it's also really good at punishing the Chin Knight matchups.
Yep.
So if those are two duos that we saw in the top 12 usage wise for day two this week, and it seems they're coming up on the rise, that's just going to make these choice band Hisuian Arcanines even that much better.
I believe some of them were also like running around with like the assault vest too, which is another good item for it, making it even better into the Chiyu Flutter Mane because like unlike the Chien Knight stuff where you have, you're intimidating the Chien Pao, they're kind of hitting you with Sacred Sword, which isn't the strongest move, especially at -1.
Mm,
Those special attackers can still hit you with those neutral damage moves, those shadow balls, and those dark pulses. So
yeah,
the assault vest definitely helps you to survive those attacks, especially when you can't extreme speed the Flutter Mane or the Terra Ghost Chiyu.
definitely. And I think one of the other things, even just talking about those neutral dark type attacks as well, one of the techs that we did see last week with oh, I just realized that Hisuian Arcanine won 2 weeks in a row. Last week with James Beck's Arcanine, while it was banned, it was the instead of running double rock coverage in Head Smash and Rock Slide, which is what a lot of these choice band sets were running. It's like you're able to do the Terra Fairy with Terra Blast in order to tongue twister. In order to punish Pokemon like the Chiyu, or even like these choice band, not choice. I'm sorry, choice scarf water foos to force the Terra
Yep.
there. And even if you're forcing the Terra, you're still taking it neutral. Because if they don't Terra, you're able to go and punish them with that Terra Fairy Terra Blast.
And it gives you super effective damage into Dragonite. It gives you super effective into Chien Pao as well. I mean, I know you can hit that with the Rock Slide as well. Both of them with Rock Slide and Flare Blitz for the Chien Pao, but that Terra Fairy Terra Blast is, not a spread 75 base power move. It is a single target 80 base powered move, which is, going to be a lot more powerful into the Dragonite, which threatens you after you Terra
Mm,
with the extreme speed.
yeah.
Allows you to play some of those mind games with sacred swords and extreme speeds and stomping tantrums and close combats and so on and so forth.
Yeah, no, it overall. I think it's just a great mon. It's in a great position, and I wouldn't be shocked if we see more Hisuian Arcanines winning. Moving to the 17 we'll talk about today, Alberto Lara, who came in sixth place. Alberto, another very, very, very consistent player in the Scarlet and Violet era, and just overall, just an absolute talent. This is a team where he is playing the wrong type and wrong color of Gastrodon. If he was playing the pink Gastrodon, he probably would have won. So write that down, Alberto. I can teach you things. You have way more like cuts and worlds invites than I ever will, but I can teach you how to win. It's using you use the pink Gastrodon. In another,
I'm kind of on Team Blue Gastrodon, to be honest
it's okay to
myself.
be wrong. In another Discord server that Mod Tim, shout out Tim, and I are in, they were having Gastrodon discourse, and I immediately hopped in like pink is better. And Tim went and said to me, "Do you have a sixth sense for Gastrodon color conversations? Because he's like, I feel like every time this comes up, I see you go and say pink is better, throw like the model of cocktail of that in there, and then just run away and not like give anything else."
Listen, this is just me speaking here, but I like the color combo blue and green better than pink and brown. So
I have a shiny pink one. I love her. She's adorable. Um,
that
yeah.
very big plus. I had a Gastrodon on my UDL 4 team, and I think I brought the blue one every single week. So
Did you win?
no,
Well, I wonder why. Bring the pink one next
yeah,
time.
I actually that was one of the most frustrating ones because I got literally max rolled on a Dragon Pulse or a Draco Energy or something. Literally, the only way I lost the game was a max roll, and they rolled the max roll in semifinals. So
Well, if you ran the pink one, it wouldn't have max rolled, or it would have just clutched out and lived because it loved you more. Um,
yeah, it was. Don't worry, it was my Galarian Moltres. It wasn't my Gastrodon.
So the Gastrodon that we've just been talking about makes up the Firewater Grass Court in this balanced team that Alberto is running. Him being the second person to bring Amoonguss. Again, non-top 12 Pokemon, Alberto using his favorites. And the Heatran, which also adds in that Steel type for an even greater core defensive core within the three. Alberto rounded that out with Flutter, King Gambit, and Landorus. You already know these are just insanely powerful Pokemon. To be quite honest, we covered it beforehand when we were just going through usage. As we already said, you can take any of those Pokemon, slap them on, and they will all fill their role. This is just a, again, standardish balanced team. It's not the type of like rain balance that James was running or like a Paul Chua balanced team. But still, it's a very clearly it's a very powerful team coming in sixth place, and it is a team that every single Pokemon is able to play its role, cover its bases, and really go into winning.
Yeah, I think just because it's the last time we're going to be talking about this Pokemon in the top eight, um, I think Landorus is very interesting right now in this format because I feel like nearly all of them are the Choice Scarf
Not all
variants.
of them.
You know, nearly all of them.
Yes,
A
nearly.
lot of them are. Yeah, I know there's some clear amulet sets. I know that one did well in one of the recent ones. There's, I'm sure, Assault Vest sets and Life Orb sets, but like Choice Scarf is like the
Mm,
standard, and it's like 80% usage on it. I feel like
yeah.
so it's. I think that there's a lot to be done with that Pokemon, but this team specifically, a lot of it makes a lot of sense. You know, you have the Heatran, which covers the fire type weaknesses of your Amoonguss and your Kingambit, as well as the Gastrodon to cover your water weaknesses and your fire weaknesses as well. The rest of the team is very splashable, and I do think that Amoonguss is incredibly underrated in this format. Um, Ogerpon is a follow me user that's a grass type, so Amoonguss loses a lot of value with its Rage Powder and its Spores, because you can end up getting follow me on your Spore. But I think that the pressure that Amoonguss puts is still incredibly strong in this format, and there's a lot less Terra Grass running around because of Fire Ogerpon.
Yeah, I think what you just said. You even if you have the Overpod, like the Amoonguss forces you to respect it, and
Yeah,
that's the most important thing. Where if you're forcing your opponent to respect the Pokemon or even to react to one of your Pokemon, it's going to enable the other Pokemon to do whatever it wants to do. Whether it's get a Sword Stance up, get an extra attack out. For like Alberto seemed like one thing that he can do that the others can't, get a yawn out, like be like, okay, you're not going to let my Amoonguss put you to sleep. My Gastrodon's just going to do the same thing. Like you're going to sleep, just get your pillow and go to bed. I got a new pillow today. That's a side note. Very excited.
I'm happy for you. I hope your sleep improves.
I really hope so too. My neck's been killing me. Um, our final top eight team: Brian Collins, Angelo Hunter, not hunting me though, as I call
Nope.
the not real Angelo, but still very good friend of mine. Love Brian. Brian came in seventh using five Pokemon because
He had five Pokemon.
Brian memed a little too hard today, this weekend. So Brian went and he named his Gallade Cerulege, and for those of you who don't
That's
know,
that's what happened.
that's what happened. So for those of you who don't know, it is
Uh,
not allowed. You are not allowed to nickname your Pokemon another Pokemon's name. Even though he did like the quotes, it was like quote Gallade, quote salute Cerulege, unquote. You can't do that. So he got a game loss, and he also was not allowed to use the Gallade. Do I agree with the ruling? Game loss, I understand. Should he have also been allowed to just change the nickname of his Pokemon to something legal? Absolutely. It is what it is. Didn't Clearly did not stop him though. Um,
Went on a tear with five
yeah,
Pokemon. Size spam's back, man. Like it's been doing well in a lot of these tournaments recently.
I think that Psy Spam, when piloted by a really good player who understands the archetype, who's been playing it, Brian being, in my opinion, one of the best side spam users around. Um, he's able to get there. He's able to get you in Trick Room. He's able to abuse that, even not just the Indeedee Armor Rouge, but abuse the Torkoal to abuse the Hisuian, who's
Ursaluna.
Ursaluna, and then of course the Dark Urshifu is a staple, or at least in my opinion, a staple on these side spam teams to cover up other weaknesses. I know that
Yeah.
Tim in Regulation D, Tim was using it. I believe that Dark Fu was also a common mon on Tom Hayden's side spam teams, and so
Yeah. Shout out Tommy.
yeah, seeing actually again another Jets fan who is dancing on my grave for today. Love my friends who are Jets fans.
Mm,
I
yep.
legitimately,
Fellow
yeah,
fellow New Yorker,
legitimately do love these
fellow
guys.
Islander like me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love Tommy.
legitimately love these guys.
Tommy's the goat.
Let's talk about the
But
Ursaluna. Because last week all we did was just wax poetically over Blood Moon, and now you're seeing the Hisuian Ursaluna went through a time machine to get here, and there is not a single Blood Moon who cut after two cut last weekend.
I mean, it's not like this thing has ever fallen off. I mean, it's still a strong, extremely strong Pokemon. We definitely had a little bit of new toy syndrome with the other Ursaluna, but now you get to take your pick. You get to pick whether or not you want a special attacking, ground and normal type, or you want yours to be physical. And here, Brian has that Torkoal. He has that Armor
Mm-hmm.
Rouge as these two primary Trick Room attackers, and they're both special attackers.
The
So,
physical side helps.
why not the regular Ursaluna? And imagine imagine if that was the Blood Moon without that Gallade. Now all your physical damage is coming from that Urshifu. That would have been a tough time, I think.
Well, I think one of the things that you could note, at least on the physical special side, there are, well, I mean, Assault Fest is an item. You go through all
Yeah.
these teams, and the only other team that doesn't have some form of Intimidate is Riley's team that came in second. So the Intimidate
Hmm.
itself, it's you had it had Lando on 50% of the teams of day two. Hisuian Arcanine still around at clearly two top four placements after winning last week as well. In like these heavy physical teams are going to struggle with your intimidators. It's one of the reasons why we have three King Gambits who made top eight.
Yep.
So to have a sort of offensive team that doesn't really care about the intimidate outside of, because even like the Urshifu, you can't click sucker punch or close combat, but God, your wicked blow is just going
I'm
to,
gonna Wicked
yeah.
Blow.
So it's just and even for the Gale, the boost that you're getting from sharpness is able to mitigate the intimidate. So while you aren't hitting
Yeah.
that hard, you're getting a 50% boost on your cutting moves because of the ability. And again,
Yeah.
Brian didn't even need the Gale to make a cut. That was just win more for him. I mean,
Yeah. And
for all we know, if he had the Gale, we're talking about size spam. I'm trying to talk myself into like having to use this archetype. Nothing against the archetype. It's just something that like it's in general like any single team that has a drought on it, my brain just turns off. Jess has been helping me for 2.5 years. It feels like every single series I'll get like, here's a new Sun team, try this, and I'll like click buttons, and like the second the Torkoal comes on and the sun's out, it just like I don't know, I flatline or something. So it's a me thing.
I think that this team is great. And also, you were bringing up the intimidators with Landorus and such. Like the way that Ursaluna plays is also it a lot of the time doesn't it comes in after the fact,
Mm-hmm.
after Landorus is on the field, or you're in Trick Room and the Landorus doesn't want to be there because
Yeah.
it's choice scarfed or it's way too fast. And I think that it adds a lot of flexibility to Brian's team, and obviously, had an incredible run with 5 Pokemon, and that is quite the achievement in itself. Um, But yeah, I think I love Psy Spam. I'm a fan. I brought it to Knoxville, which I played Michael Zhang in I believe round three of Knoxville. Lost in I think I lost 2-0, but I think that both were pretty
Yeah.
close. Um, but it's cool to see people that you've played previously doing well,
Mm.
or people that you've ran into at tournaments. And yeah, this team, I believe he was playing Sand in Knoxville as well. I could be wrong, and my memory could be doing me dirty, but I think I remember Tyranitar. But yeah, Michael, congrats on the run, and everyone in the top eight as well. All the teams here are really really awesome.
Yeah. So we do have no, we don't. That's a lie. We don't have any day two usage yet. But I would like to just open up, like, before we close out, just open up things that we saw on stream and everything, just Pokemon that we've noticed. For me, the main thing that I saw, I know it was two of the times on stream were because they put Kyle Living House twice on stream, is the amount of
Hmm.
wheezing that we were seeing, and that was the other when we were talking about Landers, what I was kind of insinuating to. We were seeing teams that would be wheezing 2 to 3 Paradox Pokemon that just don't care about their abilities, and we were seeing Ability Shield on these Pokemon, like Ability Shield,
On the
yep, on the
Landorus.
Landorus, and then like a sixth Pokemon that was just again a solid Gloomon. I know,
That's an awesome use for ability
yeah,
shield. That's like really really cool.
yeah. I saw more Ability Shield this weekend. I know that Marcus Dion and I believe that there was someone else. They were both using the same team. It was a Dozo team. It was a Dozo team that featured Glamora, and it also
And
featured the Alolan Ninetales.
ability shield
Yep, it
Geary.
was the ability shield Tatsugiri, because neutralizing gas will stop the commander, which will stop the two of your Dozo from eating the Tatsugiri. So
Yeah. Wheezing also gets haze.
Weezing does get haze. I think if I had to take anything out of this weekend outside of the top eight, or just ways that the meta is shifting, I think people are starting to realize that Weezing is such a really cool Pokemon. And the other thing I
It's so
and the
good.
other thing I saw with it is the fact that a lot of these Weezing, they were the Cantonian Weezing, and they were physical. They were using moves like Gunk Shot. And initially, I
Hmm.
was like, I would use Gunk Shot, and I was thinking,
Fluttermane.
well, the Flutter Mane, and then the other thing I was thinking of is you aren't afraid of the Intimidate because you turn off the Intimidate. The
Because you turn
Yeah,
it off.
the
Yep.
only way,
It's also positive into Chi-Yu too, since it has a low physical stat.
yeah, and so
You also miss 20% of the time then.
and there were some cases, and there were other cases. I believe there was one match I cannot remember. I believe it was a day one stream match where um, the opponent had the Terra Ghost Ninetales, and pretty much like Terra Ghost alone and Ninetales, and because the Gunk Shot was the only offensive move on the Weezing, what ended up happening with that was that the Weezing had I think they got I think like I think the new term for it is stranded on an island. Not all my friends are dead. I don't think we're saying that anymore, even though I just said that.
We can keep saying that. I like it.
I can understand why you weren't saying that. I can understand that. Twitter, don't cancel me, or do whatever. Can't control that.
Twitter doesn't exist anymore. It's fine.
I'm going. That's. But anyway,
We can be canceled. It's fine.
it's the last Littleroot Lessons host canceled like not even a month into the job. That's
In their first ever alone stream,
that's legitimately all we need.
because we were trash talking other Pokemon, saying that they had all their friends are dead syndrome, because it does. But
But yes,
like
it does.
you get like the poison, you get the poison chance, which is good. But I see where you're going, where it's a not very effective. You're probably behind Aurora Veil. You're getting hit by freeze dries or blizzards. Um, Actually, you might not be behind Aurora Veil because you turn off snow.
Yeah. I think the other thing with it as well is, or at least the one thing I noticed from those teams is that they momentum was a massive thing with them. You wanted to keep the momentum. with whether it was like whatever offensive output you were like the other Pokemon next to the Weezing was putting out, you didn't want to lose that momentum. There were a lot of turns where the partner Pokemon was threatened and was forced to switch, and it kind of had to switch to the
Hmm.
partner because you don't want to switch the Weezing because the Weezing's the one that's there keeping this
To
all
turn off your
together.
abilities,
Yeah,
and yeah,
and
it's such a cool Pokemon. It really is.
I think that's going to be something where more and more people are going to explore it because the neutralizing gas does relatively well. The other thing that I found
Yeah.
intriguing was the fact that it was the Cantonian version and not the Galarian version with that fairy typing. And I do think that could be an update to this. It not only would get the Gunk Shot, but it does get Play Rough. And as we've talked about, all of the dragon types that we think are going to be doing a lot better, and alongside the fact that we have like these dark types that are either neutral or weak to fairy type attacks, having the ability to not only click that gunk shot or that sludge bomb, but to click a move like Strange Steam or Deagling or Play Rough, I think that could also really be a benefit for this Weezing, for like the Weezing teams.
I think they'll probably stay Cantonian just because you gain a weakness with
With
the
to
fairy one.
still,
You gain
yeah,
that steel weakness, and like that's kind of the only difference between the two. Like you gain the dragon immunity, but it doesn't help like the defensive typing
yeah.
too much more beyond that. The one thing that I wanted to point out, I don't know how many stream appearances it had, but more like on a regulation E kind of standpoint, is that I think that Farigiraf is incredibly underrated. Um, I think that it has a great place on hyper offensive teams who just don't want to be hit by priority spam or by fake out, and also has an incredible place on slower, more trick room oriented teams. I think that its ability armor tail coupled with really good bulk, um, good special attack stats, and a really good core around it. Make it incredibly strong into a meta very filled by, there's a lot of priority spam with extreme speed. You can Terra Fairy to give yourself better matchups into Chi-Yu and the dark types and so on.
No, I definitely agree with that. I really love Farigiraf. It's one of my favorite Pokemon that was introduced in Scarlet and Violet, and it's again one of those Pokemon that has been around for a while, but it wasn't until like truly like recently, like Regulation D, Regulation E, as this power level has moved up, Farigiraf has been able to perform better and better. So another Umbreon theory candidate.
Yeah, it's also, despite being weak to King Gambit, being able to shut down Sucker Punch is
Massive.
a big plus. It's gigantic. I know I was playing King Gambit in the House Cup this weekend, in Bauer Dad's House Cup, and I switched. I was able to switch in my Farigiraf to give me the better matchup into the Sucker Punch King Gambit. So despite them being at, you know, three times attack, you weren't able to click that Sucker Punch button, and that was really important. And I think Frigoraph will see more as, priority becomes, on the rise. With King Gambit rising, maybe we'll see more Frigg.
No, definitely, and or just in general, I think that overall it's one of the best trick room setters. Whether you're using it to turn off other trick rooms, or like I mean, as we saw like Justin Knox last week used it next to Blood Moon or Saluna. I think it's
Mm,
just a very, very. It's again not at the level of the top 12 that we saw, specifically the top six, but it's another one of those really splashable Pokemon that can fill a lot of really great roles on your team. And if you haven't used Fertiraph yet on the next new build, maybe consider it for a spot. I truly I love the Pokemon. Last season, it was the Pokemon that my group, we all built with it actually in Regulation C, and all the three of us who used the Pokemon were able to earn championship points in one of the like the online like the global challenges. And so like I mean, if I was able to earn points with it in a GC, better players will be able to earn points with it in a regional.
It's a good mon.
Great mon.
Strong.
So with
Are we about ready to wrap it up?
I think I was about to say, do you have anything else?
I don't think so. I think I'm about all Pokemon'd out. I guess like Cresselia wasn't that popular this weekend, which was a little surprising.
That's fine.
I guess that's about it.
I'm
Yeah,
okay.
we
Yeah,
can keep it that way.
I'm okay with that. I don't have an optimal one, and I don't feel like hunting for it.
I do think it's extremely strong still. I think
it
it
is.
needs it should it'll see more usage very soon.
Yeah.
But I think that's it from me. I think that's all I got.
Send us out of here, buddy.
All right. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed mine and Angelo's first attempt at doing the podcast alone. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, do all the fun YouTube stuff. If you're listening over on Spotify or Apple Music, make sure you leave us a rate. Check out the Twitter at LR Lessons. Check out my Twitter at jmcgee1010. Angelo, you want to plug your Twitter?
I'm actually going to plug mine and Carter, because even though he isn't here, we still have to plug his stuff.
Mr. Missouri25 on Twitter for Carter. Angelo, you're just Row VGC,
yeah,
right?
So I'm Row VGC on Twitter.
And rose-colored glasses on Blue Sky.
No, it's rose-tinted cheeks, just like the cut Tyler.
Oh, so
just
close.
like the cut Tyler the Creator song from the Flower Boy session. Rose-tinted cheeks
so
turned into glitter, which is one of my all-time favorite songs. We are also on Blue Sky as well. Give me a second. I can't remember the Littleroot Lessons Blue Sky. One moment. This is great audio right here. We're doing so well right now. It's at Littleroot Lessons on Blue Sky, and I believe that Carter is also at Mr. Missouri 25 on Blue Sky as well.
Make sure you guys come join the community Discord. That's where we are all hanging out. You'll find me, a host, Ro, the cute and wrong host.
Correct.
And also Carter, who changed his name recently, but he was the funny host. The website, we got www.lrlessons.com. We got the Patreon. Shout out to Johnny Bravo Sr. and Papa Swish, and the Discord supporters as well. Shout out to Smeargle for their continued support. I think I got it all. I think I did it.
Yeah, you did. We did it.
This was a clean episode.
Clean episode.
This was pretty good.
Like, imagine the fact that we were able to do an opening without 7 takes, and I was still able to make my joke.
This was an amazing time, and thank you all so much for being here with us. I hope it's not our last time doing this alone, but we'll see where the future takes us. Thank you all so much for coming for the ride, and we will see you all soon.
Yep.
Peace.
Bye, everyone.